Good morning. Welcome to our Residence Council for November. A very wonderful week that we're going to have celebrating Thanksgiving, and I know I'm thankful to be here, and I hope you are too. We're going to first, if everyone would please stand. We do have a song this morning. Someone mentioned it's not quite patriotic, but it is a song of thanks. So if you join Harriet as she plays. If you join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, which is on the right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And now I'd like to introduce Betty Lou Jonas, who's going to introduce our Moment of Reflection speaker.
What a pleasure it is to have a resident of Oak South with us who has been at Westminster for 4 years. He is now a widower, but he is blessed with 3 children and 3 grandchildren. An Indiana native, he says he pretty much covered the state. First living in the southern part, then the central part, then the northern part. But work would not let him stay in Indiana, so he served in several other states, including Massachusetts and Virginia. His career was in special education. My hat is off to that. First as a teacher, then a supervisor, then an administrator at the county, the state, and the federal level. We were blessed that his work did not let him stay in Virginia, but his family moved to Florida. After retirement, he and his wife enjoyed living on the coast of West Florida when they were not traveling. Together, they visited 6 of our 7 continents. Active here at Westminster in several areas, including FLACRA, the Cultural Endowment, and he is very active at his church, First Presbyterian. Let's welcome Wayne Largent, whose neighbors say he is truly a man of faith.
How do you follow that? Have you ever heard the expression, the game of life? Well, if there is a game of life, guess what? We won. You and I won the game of life. We have a safe place to live. We have food to eat. We have a variety of activities to interest and educate us. We have loved ones and dear friends, acquaintances that sustain us. We have health care. We have lived a long life. We are blessed. Now, I know everything isn't perfect. I, like you, have suffered loss and disappointment. Sometimes I can't get hot water for my shower as quick as I want. Sometimes the food in the dining room isn't prepared the way I like it. Sometimes I have health challenges. And I know you're not going to believe this one, but sometimes since I've lived here, I've run into some grumpy old people. But when I look at the rest of the world around us, I realize that we have won the game of life. So now what? Our lives are for some reason not over. What is next? Think about that. Our lives, for some reason, are not over. So what is the reason? I recently read a book by James Watkins that is entitled, "If You Are Not Dead, You Are Not Done." The basic premise of the book is to look for those reasons, and he offers a 10-step program that I'd like to share briefly with you. Step 1 is acceptance. We admit that we are powerless over the aches and pains and weaknesses, memory issues, and all the other consequences of aging that have become unmanageable. Step 2, anticipation. Make a decision to no longer live in the past, but to live fully in the present as we anticipate a brighter future. The idea is to die young as late as possible. Step 3 is courage. Humbly turn our aging minds and bodies and souls over to the care of God and fearlessly face each new day, remembering that fear is inevitable, but worry is not. Step 4, curiosity. Continue to explore this amazing world, knowing that our minds can stay young by learning new things. Step 5, faith, hope, and love. Seek it through study, prayer, fellowship with others to improve our conscious contact with God. Step 6, make a list of all the people that you have harmed and those that you have grudges against, and become willing to make amends with anyone that we have called an old goat or worse. Gratitude. We are ready to have God remove all of our wrong attitudes toward aging and replace them with thanksgiving for his loving care over us. Remember, crab apples are not the fruit of the Spirit. 8, humbly ask God to swap our complaints with things that help us experience joy. Step 9, optimism. Make a willful decision to turn negative thinking about aging into thoughtful, positive thoughts based on God's love and promise. You are no longer a spring chicken, but you are a wise old owl. Step 10, significance. Really think. Make a list of everyone you have had a positive influence upon in your life. Children, friends, loved ones, co-workers, and realize that you have indeed, like George Bailey, lived a wonderful life. If you're not dead, you're not done. I believe this is a valuable way to look at our lives at this point. Back in the 90s, when my wife and I were planning on retirement, we went to a seminar with a number of speakers. I only remember the comments of one who said the key to a successful and happy retirement is to make yourself necessary to somebody else every day. Think about that. Maybe that is the reason we're still here, to be a blessing to somebody else. But above all else, remember, in the game of life, you won. Be thankful.
What beautiful, motivating words. I hope we're all inspired by that. Thank you, Wayne. Okay, now we're down to business. We're going to have our acceptance of our October 21st minutes. And Darlene, do we have a motion? Second? Any discussion? Corrections? All in favor say aye. Minutes accepted. Okay, now we're going to have our treasurer's report. Gary.
Good morning, everybody. This is the treasurer's report for November the 22nd, which is when I made this up. Our budgeted income was $38,000, and we've only made $2,000 so far this year, so we're still not doing very well with no boutique. The budgeted expenses were $38,000 also, and we've spent only $6,000 so far. The reason we don't spend so much is because it comes at the end of the term, when we give a big amount of money to FSU. The bank account of balances right now are the general fund has $65,000. The employee gift fund, which I'll say more about in a minute, has the original amount that we had carried over from last year of $31,000 plus the current amount. It equals $207,000. The foundation savings is $35,000, and the total amount that we have in the bank right now is $308,000. We have collected 338 checks for $182,000 for the gift fund. I really appreciate the great generosity that people have had in doing this. We are going to be able to do at least what we did last year, plus a little bit more. So, and I just wanted to say that I always put the detailed, can't see this of course, but this is the detailed list of assets and liabilities that we always put up on the first week in the next month, which is on MyW Life. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Gary. And I did want to mention that on December the 9th at 3 o'clock will be our team member recognition, and that is when we will be gifting all of our team members with their benefit and their bonus. And we'd like to invite all of the residents to come because it's going to be a celebration. I think we've got our singers that are going to be entertaining us, and it's going to be a fun event. So put that on your calendar. Okay, and now I'm going to ask Sue to come up. We have quite a few new residents, and we're excited to welcome them. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I'd first like to introduce Susan and John Folks, if you'd like to stand up, and they're living on diplomacy. Thank you. Susan was born and grew up in Orlando, and she graduated from FSU with a bachelor's in nursing and a master's in public administration. She has worked at Sunland for the Department of Health in public health, and also Children's Medical Services, both here and in Gainesville. John was born in Gainesville, grew up in St. Petersburg. He has a bachelor's and master's in forestry from the University of Florida, and he taught high school and junior college in Gainesville before working for the Department of Agriculture in Tallahassee. John and Susan have 2 sons, 3 grandsons, all of whom live in Tallahassee. They enjoy boating, fishing, reading, and surfing the web, and they recently adopted a female Cavapoo puppy named Willow. They have completed training to become sparklers, and they love Westminster Oaks, enjoying the activities and the friendly staff and residents here. Now I'd like to introduce Anne and Preston Lethwich. Thank you. Preston was born in Petersburg, Virginia. He attended FSU, where he studied meteorology. Anne was born in Flint, Michigan. Then the family moved to Naples, Florida, and Anne majored in English education and psychology at FSU, and that is where she and Preston met and married. For the next 3 years after their marriage, Preston was a weather officer in the U.S. Navy with the Weather Reconnaissance Squadron, otherwise known as the Hurricane Hunters. During this time, Anne taught junior high English, and their first son was born. Their youngest son was born after the family returned to Tallahassee for Preston to get his master's and PhD in meteorology. After graduating, the family moved to Miami, where Preston was employed by the National Hurricane Center, and Anne got her master's in counseling and psychology. Their next move was to Kansas, where they spent the next 20 years, Preston with the Severe Storms Forecast Center and the National Weather Service, and Anne as an English teacher, high school counselor, and associate principal. They are both devoted sports fans, especially FSU sports, and they love gardening. Preston enjoys tracking trains and participates in a rain reporting network, and Anne likes to read and plays bridge and mahjong, which I like to do. Okay, our next new resident is Sandra Perry. If you'd like to stand up, Sandra. And Sandra lives in Oaks South. And I'm very lucky to have her as my next door neighbor. Sandra was the oldest of 4 children born into a family of loggers in Tacoma, Washington. She grew up in logging camps in Oregon and California and graduated from high school in Crescent City, California. Shortly after graduation, she married Don, a young second lieutenant who was assigned to the Requa Radar Air Force Base. And for the next 20 years, they moved often, depending on her husband's assignments. During that time, they raised 2 daughters, and Sandra got her bachelor's degree from the University of West Florida and her master's from Webster University, St. Louis, Missouri. When Don retired from the Air Force, they built a home in Tallahassee. When Sandra's marriage ended, she stayed in Tallahassee, where she worked for the Florida Department of Health. It was here that she met Jim Parry, and they married and spent 25 years together. They facilitated a program for the Japanese Health Company and were able to travel together for the company both here in America and abroad. In their leisure time, they enjoyed vacations, camping, biking, and kayaking. Jim passed away 3 years ago, and Sandra feels fortunate that her daughters, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren all live here in Florida. Our final 2 residents are Susan and Richard Polangin. Susan was born in Chicago, Illinois, and she spent her formative years in Illinois and Wisconsin before moving to Florida in 1991. She lived in Spain for several years when she was married to a member of the Navy, and she has 1 son, Alex, who lives in Ocala. She has an AA degree from the University of Maryland, and she enjoys ice and roller skating, playing the guitar and piano, singing and drawing. She married Richard in 1998. Richard was born in Manhattan, New York, and grew up in Fort Lauderdale. He moved to Tallahassee in 1970 to attend FSU, and he graduated with a BS and MS degrees. He worked for the Florida Department of Health in the legislative office, and several of the bills that he drafted in public health became law. After retiring, he volunteered with the Florida Alliance for Retired Americans and the Florida Interest Research Group. He is currently a member of the League of Women Voters. He is an avid duplicate bridge player. While serving in the Army in South Korea, he represented that country in the Far Eastern Bridge Championship. He is a member of the Tallahassee Duplicate Bridge Club and has the rank of Sapphire Life Master. Richard places a high priority on health and wellness, and he works out every day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sue, and welcome to all of our new residents. We want to welcome you. someone reminded me that we didn't approve our treasurer's report. So now I need a motion to approve our treasurer's report. So move second. All in favor say aye. Treasurer's report approved. Okay, at this time, Sally Betzine is going to come and share with us about the FLIGRA activities.
Good morning. The first thing, I have an invitation for you. I'd like to invite you to come next Tuesday at 2 o'clock right here in the McGuire Center for our annual ice cream social. And it's our annual meeting where we'll be electing new incoming board members for the FLIGRA board here in Westminster Oaks. And just as a way, welcome to the new residents. I know I'm fairly new, I've been here about 2 years, and I was a little confused about what is FLIGRA. And there's the Residents Council, which is this group, which is for the residents here in Westminster. But the Residents Association is a statewide organization for monitoring legislation and making sure that people that live in continuing care communities like we do are protected. And the two main things that will be probably in the legislative session this coming March, when they start up in session again, is protecting ourselves financially from some of the unscrupulous owners, and we're lucky we don't have that here, but there are places that are in danger of bankruptcy and people have to move, so it's really serious stuff. And then the other thing, of course, ongoing is health care and making sure that the laws and regulations are protecting our people that need good health care in continuing care communities. So I encourage you to come, even if you're not a FLIGRA member. You're more than welcome at our ice cream social. Come for the meeting. We'll have the speaker is going to explain more about what's coming up in the legislature. And if you're not yet a member, please consider joining, and there'll be information at the ice cream social about how to become a member. So we welcome you and welcome to the new folks, and please join FLIGRA. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. At this time, we have a guest speaker, Amanda Birch, who's from Orlando, who is our Vice President of Human Resources. So, you know, we're always questioning about our monthly fees and how things are determined, and she's going to be educating us as to how compensation is determined at Westminster. I think this information is going to enlighten you on the budgeting process and the Westminster philosophy. So the goal was to help you understand the part of the process as it relates to our fees. So Amanda Birch, thank you for coming.
Thank you, Jane, and Westminster Oaks for having me. Good morning. I'll just share a little bit about myself before I move forward. So I'll share with you, I have been with Westminster Communities of Florida. It'll be 10 years in January. And I started with the organization as the executive director of Westminster Woods on Julington Creek, and then transitioned into a regional director role, and then transitioned to community support services, which is in Orlando, right? After that, to be the director of quality initiatives, and then worked on mission integration. We changed our mission statement a couple of years ago, and that was a project of mine with our prior CEO. And then transitioned into human resources about 4 years ago. So I am thrilled to be in that human resources area. I have had a real passion for people, whether it be residents or team members, so I'm just completely thrilled with being in that area. I also just wanted to take a moment to thank you for all you do to collect the funds for the Resident Gift Fund for our team members, because that is such a valued gift to so many team members. They appreciate that more than you realize, so thank you for that hard work. I wanted to take a moment with you just to share with you a little bit about our compensation strategy. I'm not sure how many of you realize this, but labor is 65% of our operating budget. That's a lot. And the operating budget is what determines our annual fee increase for the monthly service fee. So we felt like it was really important for you all to understand the strategy around how we determine compensation across the organization. And I will certainly open it up to questions too for anything that I don't end up covering that you're curious about. So just know that we will have an opportunity for that. So I'm going to try to control the slides. Let's see. Oh, we're already on the first one. So we'll first talk about strategy. And our strategy is that every position should at least be priced to be in the midpoint of each individual market. So we want to be financial stewards of all of you as residents. So we're not going to be that top paying provider. Just know that. We'd love to be, but we're not going to be, because we realize that all the funds that we have to spend come from all of you. So what we try to do is we've tried to, in the past, position ourselves in the 50th percentile. That we've realized has really made us less competitive than other organizations in the market. So we're slowly shifting that percentile, and in some cases we've shifted it quite a bit just to make a difference and just to be able to obtain top talent and retain the team members that you have. So I will also share with you that compensation varies per region. For some reason, the Jacksonville market has to pay a lot for clinical team members compared to the rest of the state. So it's really kind of interesting to see how that plays out, and that changes over time with the various different markets that we serve. We utilize, just so you know, to determine our compensation between 12 and 15 studies that are really focused in on all the different categories of team members that we end up hiring. Those studies come into our CSS office. We participate in many studies as well, and we take a look at that data, sift through it, and we actually calculate that manually in an Excel spreadsheet. We're looking to automate that this year. So the individual that is in our home office who determines that is really excited about the possibility of automating that. But for now, it's a very manual process, and she's been doing it for years, and it's quite good. Her name is Jenny Chase, so we are just thrilled and honored to have her in place because she's just so skilled at determining compensation. As we evaluate those compensation ranges as well, just know that we also look at benefits. So we look at our total compensation package to include not only the salary that we pay our team members on a regular basis, but also the benefits that we offer them as well. So there's just an example in this particular slide about an average dishwasher in Orlando who may be making $15 an hour. So with our compensation strategy at this point in time, since many of our jobs are actually in that 55th percentile, since we're working to shift those percentiles up, that team member that's working for us would make not only the $15, but the 5 percentile points more to get them to our mid-range, just so you know. So that's how that works. We have a minimum, mid, and maximum range. We tend to hire between the minimum and mid-range unless somebody comes to us with a lot of experience. Then we can have a conversation going over that minimum or median range. Mid-range. And the reason why we do that is because we want to make sure that team members have the opportunity to grow with the organization and not have their salary capped. So that's why we try to hire between that min and mid, and then we go above mid if we have to. In paying fair to market, obviously, I've already shared this with you. We will always have some employers that will pay more than us, but also some that will pay less as us as well. And then I want to talk a little bit about the process behind the scenes and the timing of how this comes to fruition with regard to compensation and any changes that we make on an annual basis. So in April to June, we actually receive our studies that we are participating in. So we're sharing our compensation with different entities who are compiling these studies. And then from June to July, we are getting data back so that we can help determine what our compensation will be in the next budget year. July and August, we establish those ranges, those min, mid, and maximum ranges. And then August through September, we actually take a look at every single employee that we have in place. So not only are we determining those ranges and how they're going to shift, but we also look at all of our current team members in-house and say, okay, where are they compared to where we're shifting to? Because we don't want to leave our team members behind, right? We never want to be in a situation where we have new team members coming in making more than the team members that we currently have in place. So our compensation strategist looks at every single team member to make sure that as the wages shift in each different category, that our team members are shifting along with them. And then what we do is in late August, I'd say September, it usually starts around September, can go into October, we actually make appointments with the executive director at each of our communities, their health services administrator, and the human resources director and assistant executive director, and we go through line by line each team member that we are recommending that we make a shift for to keep them whole in this process. We also go over the new ranges, and we share at that time which ranges are going to be shifting. So I talked with you a little bit about, we started at the 50th percentile, and now we're at the 55th percentile. I will tell you that for some categories of team members, we are at the 85th percentile because we found that we couldn't hire somebody for less than that. So just know that we are that granular in the details. I mean, we really do look at every single position. It's not just a one-size-fits-all for our organization and for our team members. So for some individuals, we've had to do that to be able to get people in those positions. So, clinical nurse liaison, it's one of those. Usually it's the clinical positions that we've had to push because, as you know, we're competing not only with other retirement communities, skilled nursing facilities, assisted living communities, but we're also competing with hospitals, which is a challenge, as you know. The recommendations that we then give to the executive directors will then get automatically placed into the budget for the next fiscal year, which starts April 1st. And then our work doesn't stop there, just so you know. So it's not that we're locked in to what goes into the budget. If we end up having a difficult time recruiting for various different positions throughout the year, what will happen is we will typically get a call from someone like Shannon, the executive director, that will say, you know what, we have tried to hire a dining services director, and what they're telling us is that they will not take the job offer for the amount of money that we're offering. So what we do is we go back to the drawing board, we get more current data, and then we shift the range if we need to. And then we get back with Shannon and say, okay, this is what you can offer, and she can go forth and conquer. Right, Shannon? So we rely on our team members in the field, our executive directors and human resources directors, to come to the table and share with us, what's working and what's not working with regard to compensation, so that we can make the changes that we need, so that we can bring in the team members you need to be able to serve you as residents in your community. I will share with you that over the last 4 years, what happened 4 years ago, that lovely pandemic, I even hate to say the word, I'm so far beyond it at this point, but that changed our organization tremendously. Over the last 4 years, we have had to increase our salaries 28% in the field, which is significant. So while we've done that in the field, I also want to share with you that at Community Support Services, we have shifted salaries 8%. Why the difference? Because we felt like the money needed to go to team members who were serving you directly, those frontline team members. So that's why we've had that philosophy. The other thing, you heard me mention earlier, the other thing that we look at is benefits when we're looking at total compensation. So about 2.5 years, close to 3 years ago, we did a total rewards survey with all of our team members to find out what benefits truly resonated with them, to make sure that we were offering benefits that they find of value. So we did that. We got a lot of really good feedback. We had several good benefits in place, and we've worked over the last couple of years to be able to enhance those to include some of the recommendations that they offered. So just know that we keep our eye on the ball when it comes to that. We're probably due for another survey within the next year or two, to be able to just test our team members again and just see what they would find of value moving forward. So we like to do that every 4 or 5 years just to make sure we keep our pulse on benefits that would be of value to our team members. And then what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about living wage. So just so you know, our currently hourly average pay in our communities is $24.48. I will tell you that that does include your department directors, like your director of maintenance, your director of housekeeping, dining services director. It does not include your executive director, your assistant executive director, your health services administrator, your development director, or your chaplain. Just so you know, that's what's included in that dollar amount. A couple of years ago, we moved wages to be at least $15 an hour in all of our markets because we wanted to commit to being able to move more closer to a living wage. So through our gradual market adjustments, increasing those percentiles, we now find ourselves in that range. So we're excited about that, and certainly look forward to continued growth in our compensation strategy. So with that, I'd like to open it up and ask you if you have any questions. Any? Yes.
I think we're all very understanding of the need to have our employees paid so that we receive the services for which we become accustomed. However, I'm curious how you look at the increases in our own, whether it's our retirement benefits or Social Security, which is usually tied to cost of living increases, which is considerably lower than the 8% you've been talking about, and how that affects us who pay for these salaries and what we can expect in the future in terms of increases to our monthly payment.
Great question. So I will share with you, I'm not a forecaster. So I don't know. My area of expertise and why I'm here today is to talk about human resources. I share with you the strategy so that you understand a piece of what goes into the budgeting process. So there's certainly more that goes into the budgeting process that I may not necessarily be aware of. So I can't predict what that means for your annual monthly service fee increase. I can tell you that when we go to the budget meetings, we are very cognizant of what you are getting with regard to any type of Social Security increase moving forward, which typically isn't much, as you know. So we talk about that. We talk about any other potential increases. We talk about the consumer price index, et cetera. So there are a number of things that go into those conversations around budgeting. So, you know, again, because we see those dollar amounts, we try not to push any more on our residents than we can, because we are just very cognizant that anything we do from a compensation strategy affects all of you. So I know that probably doesn't answer your question. I think probably Shannon may know some more information that she may be able to help with regard to that. But is there any area I can be a little bit more specific on? Anything I can add to that would be helpful?
Yeah, I think it would be useful for us to know how residents were involved in the decisions that are made, if there were residents at the table when you were having these discussions.
From a budgetary perspective, I know, Shannon can probably comment to that. From a compensation perspective, all of that is done at the home office. So yes, that is done at Community Support Services with our compensation strategists. Yeah. So no, I'll be clear. With regard to compensation, no. And there typically isn't. Yes, sir.
How does the compensation strategy reflect differences in wages and cost of living from one area of the state to another?
So it varies. What happens is when we look at those studies, we get those studies from a wide range of areas, and we'll look at compensation and what keeps us competitive in each different market. So it does vary. It doesn't vary significantly, although I'll say the only market that really sticks out for clinical staff right now is the Jacksonville market for some reason. I don't know if that's because the Mayo Clinic is there, MD Anderson Cancer Care is there. I'm not sure what's making that market or keeping that market so high, but that's what we're finding is the main difference. All of the others are very close, I'll say. Does that answer your question? I just want to make sure. Okay. Great questions. Any other questions? No? Well, just know that I am happy to answer any questions that come my way. So if Shannon knows how to reach me, so if you have any additional questions, if you leave and just think of an additional question, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm happy to communicate with you all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Amanda. I know we always have questions about money, and I hope this answers a lot of our questions in terms of our monthly bills and those kinds of things. What's taken into account for all of those decisions? Let's see. I have a couple announcements. I have Ruth Cates, if Ruth would come. Ruth has become our boutique supervisor, and if you'd come up, please. We have a great announcement that we think is exciting about the boutique, because you know we've been on hold for a while, but they have come up with a strategy.
Well, the strategy may not, solve all the difficulties. As Gary was mentioning earlier, the income for the Residence Council, kind of depends on the boutique, and we've been closed down for several months now, so we all miss being there, the people who volunteered there for so long, and it took up several of our days, planning for our work there and serving there, so we miss it very much as well. We thought about having something special to maybe just raise a little bit of money and bring the boutique back into your minds and your hearts before we're able to actually open, which we have no idea exactly when that's going to be. But a couple of people mentioned to me the possibility of having a pop-up store for holiday purchases. So what we're planning to do is next week on Tuesday in the afternoon, we're going to have a few of us will be down in the pub, and we will accept donations for holiday-themed things. Maybe some things you've had for a while and you just decided, well, I've had that long enough. I'm going to pass it along to somebody else to enjoy. Or I'd like to buy something new to contribute to the boutique. That would be nice too. But things that like ornaments or decorations or wreaths or that sweater that you're tired of wearing but is still in good shape. We'd like things in good condition that are saleable that maybe people would like to have. We're accepting donations on Tuesday afternoon from about 1 to 5. And then on Wednesday morning, beginning at 9 o'clock in the morning and going until about 3 in the afternoon, depending on how many things we have to sell, we are going to have a pop-up store, which actually means tables, in the breezeway between, which I didn't know what the breezeway was, but it's the hallway between Oak South and Perry. So everybody walks by there a lot of times, several times a day. So we appreciate you'd stop and take a look at what we have available and maybe help out a little bit by buying some of the things that you could use for your holiday decorations or making your house look a little bit more like holiday. So we look forward to seeing some of you either on Tuesday afternoon and again maybe on Wednesday. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, we're coming to the end of our Residence Council Board, and we're going to, in the December WOW, there's going to be an announcement because we're looking for replacement members for our Residence Council. Our Residence Council goes from May through April, and our new Residence Council will start in May, and it's unbelievable that we're at that time that we need to have a nomination committee. And so we're asking if anyone would like to volunteer to be on the nominating committee for our new Residence Council board. We have several members that will be going off, as well as any nominations for actual members of our Residence Council board. So if you have any ideas for the nominating committee or for the nominations itself for the Residence Council, if you would email me or text me if you would like to be a potential member, and our committee then will be reviewing those. But there will be an announcement in the WOW, and we're in the process now of creating our committee to make those nominations. So I just encourage you to think about yourself and think about your friends and who you think would be a wonderful. We have a super board this year, and I'm excited to work with. I have been excited to work with this group because they're very eager to help and to do whatever they need to do. So anyway, think about that, and I hope I have some exciting nominations. Okay, at this time, I think he's going to do us a flyer on the music tonight. Our special music will be our Thanksgiving celebration with our very own Westminster singers, so I encourage you to come and celebrate. Do we have any more announcements at this time for the good of the cause? Okay, Shannon mentioned to me that she was giving her time to Amanda, so unless we have special questions for...
Jane, I just want to add one thing. Can you hear me? Okay. I just wanted to add one thing. You are going to get an email. Lynn Kimball promised that she was going to send an email blast about my announcement that I just made to you about the boutique. So in case you forget the times or the days or anything like that, you will get an email which will remind you. Okay? Thank you.
And if anyone has ever seen my house during Christmas, this may be a sign for me to quickly decorate my house and see what I have as an overload. I have been on the tour before, if you all have ever been there. I probably have some donations for the boutique, so I'll have to get on decorating so I can bring those things in. I didn't know if Shannon, if you have any questions for Shannon. She was donating her time to Amanda today. So if there are no other questions, Karen?
Yes, question for Shannon. I've heard that our pool is no longer going to be a saltwater pool. Is that correct? And if so, why?
No, I've not heard that about the pool, but I'll double check with Tim and ask him to speak on that topic at our December town meeting.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, next Monday will be our town hall meeting, so if you have questions, save them for a week from Monday. We're kind of having our residence council late in the month this time. Don't forget, December the 9th, for a team member celebration at 3 o'clock in the McGuire Center. And we're going to have snacks. So not only ice cream next Tuesday, but cookies and drink then on the 9th. If there's nothing else, we want to hope you all have a wonderful Thanksgiving and enjoy your week. Thank you.